I was with astrology as long as they spoke about the static analysis, that the sky at the moment of your birth tells me something about your body, your mind, how you're wired. So the chart for today, right now, as I am filming this, is 30th April 2026, 6:35 a.m. So this is a chart. So this is the North Indian. It goes like this. It's basically a circle. You know, the zodiac is the thin ring of the thin band around the earth where all the planets circulate. It's a thin band because we are on a plane, and when we are standing on the earth, we all see the planets on one narrow band. So this a chart is nothing but a representation of that. The most natural chart would be the circle, right? The circle, and right now the sun is in a certain sector of the sky that we call Aries, even though the constellation is just a convention. There are actually 13 constellations in the zodiac, but we have to make it 12 because the sun and the moon cross each other 12 times in a year. So to actually represent the areas of the sky by the constellations would be very inconvenient. So this is already an abstraction, that we are dividing up the sky into 12 imaginary sectors, and we are just giving them names like Aries, because Aries as the constellation is very, very thin and narrow. Meanwhile, Virgo is huge, Scorpio is the smallest. So if all of them were given an equal degree representation, like this is circle, so 360 degree, 12 signs, so each gets 30. Like Virgo, if it was given its proper, Virgo would be here. If I was given it proper size, it would be almost 45 degrees, I think. And Scorpio over here, 8, rashi number 8, would be given only say 7 degree. So there is already an abstraction and a regularization and platonification, as Nassim Taleb would say, a platonification of the skies. Take the messy reality of the skies and try to order it into something more harmonic, more platonic, like the platonic solids, into more something platonic. So this is already an abstraction. So people who argue about whether the tropical zodiac is real or the sidereal zodiac is real, I mean, it makes sense that the Indian Jyotisha system is based on the sidereal zodiac, where right now the sun has entered Aries just after 14th April, but in the tropical, like seasonal zodiac, it has already considered to have entered Aries on 21st March. So it doesn't really matter because it's all imaginary anyways. So let's just put this aside. Let's just assume that over time people have noticed that when people are born with certain planets in certain configurations, certain things are true about them. Let's assume it's true, right? So this is the North Indian style, in which the ascendant, this is the most important house, the ascendant, because this is how the earth gets into your chart. There are 7 proper planets, and there are proper planets are 5, 2 luminaries, which are not really planets, they are heavenly objects, sun and the moon, and 2 nodes. The 2 nodes are imaginary points, Rahu, Ketu, where I mean, ideally they should be the same, because they are just the point where remember how I said how everything on all the planets of the solar system, they all move on the same plane. Moon is also on that same plane, but a little offset. It's not exactly on the same plane, it's a little offset. If it was on the exact same plane as everything else, then every new moon or full moon day would be like an eclipse, because every time the moon comes in front of the sun, it would be an eclipse, right? A solar eclipse. But right now it goes above or below a little bit. How much above or below? 5 degrees. So the moon is actually like rotating around the earth in like a 5-degree tilted axis to the rest of the stuff. So there are 2 points where the orbit of the moon intersects with the ecliptic, where the other planets are. So those are called Rahu Ketu. One in which the moon goes up is called the north node, the ascending node Rahu, the dragon's head, and the one in which it goes down is called Ketu, south node, descending node, dragon's tail. Ideally, they are both the same because both of them can cause eclipses. But somehow Rahu is given a different character and Ketu is given. But I'll take all of that. I'll take all of that. I have an open mind. I have a flexible, pliant mind, and maybe there are certain weird things. Like 100 years ago, wave-particle duality was difficult for people to wrap their head around. Maybe there's something to this, right? So I was saying the 7 planets. 5 planets, 2 luminaries, 2 nodes. So you have 9 grahas. Grahas are not exactly the same as planets. Grahas are something known as, a graha. They graha you. They seize you. So where is the Earth in all of this? The Earth is also supposed to be. The Earth is in the ascendant. What is the ascendant? The ascendant is the fastest changing property of a chart. It changes every 2 hours. Why does it change? Because every 2 hours, every 24 hours, the Earth is rotating, right? So everything, all the planets on the ecliptic around us, they're all going to go up and down. So all the 12 sectors of the sky, they're going to go by in 2 hours each. 24 hours, 12 sectors, 12 constellations, 2 hours each. So the ascendant changes every 2 hours. So this is the ascendant. This is where the Earth is, the horizon, which point of the sky, which point of the zodiac the horizon is on. So this is the North Indian style, in which the order is like this. South Indian, in which like this. In this style, the Rashi, these things keep changing. The ascendant is always on the top diamond. In this style, this is always Aries. So the ascendant is marked like this. Over here, it's right now, at the moment I am filming this, the ascendant and the Aries, and it's all the same. So if it was something else, I would mark it here. So both styles are good for seeing different kinds of things. For example, if you want to see opposites, like this house opposite to this, it's very easy to see on the North Indian style. But if you want to quickly at a glance figure out which planet is debilitated, exalted, or a lot of other different kinds of calculations. If you want to rectify birth time, if you want to do other things, this kind of, because this is always going to be Aries, this is always going to be Gemini, this is always going to be Virgo, always going to be Saggy, always going to be Pisces. And all these symbols, I'm using all the symbols for the planets because it just looks fancy. So this is a chart, so I can dig with it. Like Sun in Aries gives you a strong personality in the first house. Maybe some people have figured it out. What I don't buy is that 20 years down the line, when you superimpose this with some kind of transit chart, a transit chart is where the sky's position at that specific point 20 years down the line. So it would go something like, say for instance, now Sun is here, and now Moon is here, and then this is here, Jupiter is here, Saturn is here, Jupiter comes here somehow, Mercury, Venus, wait, I have to be careful about Mercury and Venus because they can't be too far away from the Sun. So I just put them here. This, right? So how the fuck does a planet 20 years down the line remember where the planets were 20 years earlier, and how does transit Saturn going over your transit or your natal moon give you mental disturbance? How does that work? There is no memory in the sky. Okay, like, are you like stamped with your birth chart so that all the planets know how to, when to give you what? This transit analysis, Gochar analysis, which is the most important part of timing events anyways, because from the static birth chart, you have some dashas that you can talk about. Okay, this will be a good time, this will be a bad time, but to actually exact, precise, hard way of predicting events in the theory of Jyotish is transits, when the planets are going through the proper houses. There's also another system of giving house strengths. There is called Sarvashtak system. So if in every house gets a certain number of points. Say anything about 25 is good. So if this has a 23, 36, 22, something like that. So if Saturn or one of the slow moving planets, Saturn, Rahu, Jupiter, are going over houses with less number of points, then also, how the heck do these planets remember all this? How? So I started off studying this because I thought maybe there is something to it, but the more I'm getting into it, the more and more superstitious it feels to me.